Picture this, a time when keeping your milk cold meant buying a massive block of ice, and getting your dinner upstairs required a tiny elevator. It sounds almost medieval, but it wasn't that long ago. Back before modern appliances took over, homes were filled with some pretty fascinating features that have since vanished. Today, let's take a walk down memory lane and look at 10 old-school home features you just don't see anymore. Long before the hum of the electric refrigerator filled our kitchens, families relied on something called an icebox to keep their food from spoiling. Think of it as the great-grandparent of your modern fridge. It was usually a wooden cabinet, often lined with tin or zinc, with hollow walls packed full of insulation like cork, sawdust, or straw to keep the cold in. At the top, there was a special compartment where a huge block of ice would be placed. As the ice melted, the cold air would sink down, keeping the butter, milk, and meat cool below. Of course, this meant you couldn't just forget about it. You had to stay on top of the Iceman's schedule, because if you ran out of ice, your food ran out of cool. Ever notice that little window above the door in really old buildings? That's a transom window, and it was a brilliant solution to a problem we don't really have anymore. Before central air and heating, how did you get a breeze flowing through a stuffy house without leaving the door wide open? You opened the transom. These little windows could be propped open to let hot air escape and fresh air circulate, all while keeping the door closed for privacy and security. They also let extra sunlight filter into dark hallways. To open them, people used a long pole or a special tool, and they added a touch of architectural charm that we've mostly lost today. If you walked into a well-to-do home in the 1800s, you wouldn't just barge into the living room. You'd be received in the parlor. This was the best room in the house, the one kept immaculately clean and used only for special occasions. It's where the family would show off their finest furniture, their artwork, and maybe even a piano to entertain guests. It was the setting for weddings, formal visits, and even viewings for funerals. The rest of the time, the doors stayed closed to keep it pristine. Over the years, as our lives became more casual and we gathered around the radio and TV, the formal parlor slowly evolved into the cozy, everyday space we now call the living room. In larger homes, especially from the late 1600s up through the early 1900s, it was common to have dedicated spaces for the staff. These servants' quarters tell a quiet story about the social structure of the time. In smaller houses, this might have been a cramped room in the attic or basement, but in grand estates, it was often a separate wing. The idea was to keep the household staff close enough to work efficiently, but completely out of sight from the family and their guests. Looking back now, these spaces are a powerful reminder of the huge gap between the wealthy and the people who kept their homes running. It's hard to imagine a time before you could just turn a faucet for fresh water, but that was reality for most people not too long ago. Your morning routine would have started at a washstand. This was a small, often elegant table or cabinet made of wood like mahogany, holding just two things: a ceramic basin and a large pitcher of water. You'd pour the water into the bowl to splash your face and wash your hands. It was simple, but it was also a piece of furniture. As indoor plumbing became the norm and sinks were built into walls, the washstand quietly disappeared, becoming more of a collector's item than a household essential. If you've ever explored the basement of a really old house, you might have noticed a small metal door set into the foundation wall, often with black stains around it. That's where the coal came in. Before natural gas and electric heating, most homes were warmed by coal-burning furnaces. A truck would dump a load of coal down that metal chute, which was a slanted tunnel leading directly into a coal bin in the basement. It was dirty work. The coal dust would get everywhere, and you can still see the black stains on the walls of those old bins today. For the wealthy, they had fancy automatic stokers, but for everyone else, it meant shoveling coal to keep the home warm all winter. When electricity first started appearing in homes around the 1880s, it wasn't the safe plastic-coated wiring we know today. It was called knob and tube wiring. Picture this: individual copper wires running through your walls, held in place by little porcelain knobs that looked like spools. Where the wires needed to pass through wood, they went through porcelain tubes to prevent fires. For its time, it was a huge step forward, but it had some major flaws. It couldn't handle the amount of power our modern gadgets need, and it didn't have a ground wire for safety. You'll rarely find it in use today, as it's been replaced by much safer systems. But finding it in an old house is like finding a fossil from the electrical age. Before everyone had a massive refrigerator in their garage, we got our dairy fresh, daily. And the milkman didn't just leave the bottles on the porch. In many homes, especially in cities, there was a clever little feature called a milk door. It was a small, hinged, and often insulated cabinet built right into the wall of the house. It had a door on the outside and a door on the inside. The milkman would open the outer door, place the glass bottles inside, and close it. Later, you could open the inner door from your kitchen and grab the milk without ever stepping outside. It was the original, low-tech package locker, keeping the milk safe from sun, animals, and thieves. In the grand homes of the 19th and early 20th centuries, the dining experience was a carefully choreographed performance, and the butler's pantry was the backstage. This was a small room or hallway situated right between the kitchen and the dining room. It wasn't for cooking, it was for everything else. This is where the fine china, the silverware, and the crystal were stored. It was where the final touches were put on dishes before they were served, and where the silver was polished and counted. In some houses, the butler even slept there to guard the valuable silver. Today, the butler's pantry has made a bit of a comeback in modern homes, but now it's often just a stylish spot for a coffee bar or extra storage. Imagine trying to carry a full roast turkey dinner up a winding staircase from the basement kitchen to the third-floor dining room without dropping it. That's where the dumbwaiter came in. Think of it as a tiny manual elevator just for stuff. It was a small box on a rope and pulley system, or later a motor, that traveled between floors. You could load it up with food, dishes, or even laundry in the basement, pull a rope, and send it up to the kitchen or a bedroom. It wasn't built for people, just for cargo, and it was a huge labor saver in those big, multi-story homes. And before I forget, have you ever wondered why old houses have that little strip of molding running near the ceiling? That's a picture rail. Back in the day, walls were made of plaster, and hammering a nail in to hang a picture would often cause the plaster to crack. The clever solution was to install a wooden rail. You'd hang pictures from it using wires and hooks, so you could rearrange your art all you wanted without damaging the walls. It was practical, but it also added a nice decorative touch to the room. It's pretty wild to think about how much our homes have changed in just a century. From ice deliveries to smart refrigerators, it's a journey of convenience. Which one of these old features do you wish would make a comeback? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this little trip into the past, go ahead and click for the next video. And hey, if you want to help a small channel keep exploring cool stuff like this, please hit that like button and subscribe. It honestly helps a ton. Thanks for watching.